All right. In this section, we're going to be talking about inequality. This is a topic a lot of people care a lot about and have a lot of strong opinions about, and also have some kind of inaccurate information. So hopefully, by the end of this unit, you have accurate information, and then you've looked at this topic a little deeper and kind of see how it's measured, etc. I'm also going to do this learning unit a little bit differently, so I'm going to use more videos. And then in the coming weeks, I'm going to give you a chance to give me some feedback, and you can kind of let me know which style of learning unit seems to be the most effective for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with some introduction. So probably some of you remember this Occupy Wall Street movement and the idea of the 99%. And this 1% is controlling most of the wealth. So one of the things that why inequality matters is because inequality can make people get angry, and it can make people create social movements which lead to social unrest and other kinds of issues. Okay, so there's also something in this, for example, in this movement, which was quite an important movement going on. There's also something that's slightly inaccurate in terms of understanding of what inequality is, and also that there's another topic which is somewhat related but not the same thing, known as polarity. Okay, and so by the end of this probably second video, you will then get a chance to kind of to understand this idea. So one of the reasons we care a lot about inequality is because when there's major inequality, often there tends to become resistance, social movements, and this tends to create big disruption in the society. Okay, so that's one of the reasons we care, because a lot of people are going to care if things are very unequal, and so it's something that people pay attention to. In addition to the just poverty, people also care about the unequal distribution of wealth and or income or other resources. Okay, so again, why do we care? Well, first of all, inequality does not imply poverty. So a society could be no one is living in extreme poverty, but it's still very unequal, meaning most of the people are kind of at the, they have all their basics satisfied, but not much beyond that. And then there's a smaller group of people that are extremely rich. Okay, but it could still be unequal. And you could also have a society where everyone's living in poverty and it's very equal. Everyone's equally poor, right? So poverty and inequality are not necessarily the same thing. And actually, many of the most unequal societies are not the poorest societies, so which we're going to find out about later. But people really care about inequality a lot. But they also often kind of confuse the two ideas of poverty and inequality. So for our class, I really want to work on separating these two ideas so that you keep clear what exactly is that you're talking about. So again, like I mentioned in the introduction, one of the primary reasons is social justice. A lot of people just feel it's unfair. It's unfair for a small group of people to control a lot, or for a segment of society that actually is often not that small. So I would say the 99% comment is very inaccurate. I would say it's more like the 70% and the 30% maybe, or in terms of who controls the resources. But yes, this idea of the social justice is an important one. There's also this idea of relative deprivation, right? So when everyone doesn't have much, people might be relatively happy, and if out of that group, one part of the group starts to get a lot more things, and the rest of the people don't, then they might become unhappy from this relative deprivation. It's also hard to achieve our human development goals of improving people's health, education, everything else, if our income is very concentrated, especially in poor countries. In wealthier countries, it's actually not as difficult, because there's enough resources to go around, and is sort of one of the things that can be done is to tax people to pay for these kind of human development things. But in very poor countries with very low levels of income, often if things are very concentrated at the top, they're just really difficult to achieve these basic goals of education and health, etc. There's also may be some impact between growth and these human development outcomes, right? So first of all, if the economy grows, generally the poor will get at least some of the benefit. So it's kind of a little bit of a myth. A lot of people sort of think, oh, when the economy grows, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Often that's not the case, but what is often the case is that often the rich get richer faster. Okay, in some cases, and we'll talk about those cases at the end of this learning unit. right? But it's not very common. In fact, it's very uncommon that one group will get, in absolute terms, will get poorer while the other group is getting richer. Okay, that's actually fairly uncommon when we look around the world at growth. So growth is one thing that can may change inequality and may make it worse, may make it better. And again, we need to look at that at the end of this section. But if you don't have growth, then you're going to have to do income redistribution or resource redistribution in order to improve inequality and in order to achieve these basic human development outcomes. So again, we're going to talk about each one of these things kind of later on in the unit. The other thing is the inequality may play some kind of a causal role in growth. Okay, so inequality is not just affected by growth, but it also may affect growth. And so these last things at the end of this learning unit, we're going to go into them a little bit, and we're going to go a little bit beyond what our textbook is doing.